some would say, why, Blair, would you switch to decaf?
It's a good question.
And to that, I would respond, I have anxiety. And hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Happy New Year. I'm Blair.
And I'm Kirsten, and we are mediocre content.
Mediocre content. Yay, us.
New year, same crappy intro.
That's right. That's right.
As it should be.
We, and you know how, like, a few episodes ago, we said we were going to absolutely, like, do a lot of filming, not filming, but recording
Yeah.
over December. And it is currently New Year's Day. Our episode is supposed to come out in 2 days, and we are recording it.
Right now.
So we're doing great on this whole, like, once a week thing. I mean, obviously, I think we're going to be fine. We're recording another episode today, but, like, it's,
Starting off strong.
I know.
Mm-mm.
We're gonna do it. It's gonna be fine.
It will be fine. We're just
Yeah,
overachievers, you know? We're like, you know what? We're just
that's
going to
right.
bang them out at the same time, right now,
Correct.
immediately before they're due. Appreciate
Exactly.
for ourselves and our
Exactly.
skills.
Why would we want to get ahead? Absolutely not.
Why would we want to be proactive?
Absolutely not. No, we're not doing that.
Oh my goodness.
So yes, did you have a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday?
I did. We traveled a lot, but that's okay. We're back home and doing really well. During that time, I also started a new skincare routine, so I'm feeling fresh and fabulous.
Oh, we
Yes,
love that.
I do. So, but
We love that.
what about you?
We had a lovely time. We showed our family members around where we're living, which is super
Cute.
fun. And, we went to the aquarium, we saw some otters. That's always a
Mm.
positive thing. So
Yes.
we're doing, we're getting through it, starting the new year off right. Chris and I both went through, like, we spent all day yesterday on New Year's Eve. This is how much party animals we are. We we literally we just went through our closets and, like, cleaned out our closets.
How
That's
refreshing.
that was our New Year's Eve
That's good
party,
though.
you guys.
Start off nice
Super
and
fun.
fresh and clean for the new year. That's amazing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was
Wow.
fun.
We did not do that.
Yeah.
I went to a friend's house and had too much wine and then had to work at
Yeah.
midnight. So
To be fair, we also had some drinks, but it was like drunk cleaning out your closet. It was like
Oh,
drunk Marie Kondo. There you
that's
go.
amazing. They should make that a show. That would be a
I think
hit.
so. It's like drunk history, but
Yeah.
but better.
Yeah, but better. But except your house is slightly more
You could
organized.
put it on HGTV. That could be an HGTV show.
You 100% could. I would watch it. Are you eating right now?
I'm eating I'm eating a cutie, okay?
Hungry. We're busy.
Yeah. I haven't eaten
Um,
anything. I just had decaf coffee.
which is just sad. I've had 2 cups of
Mm,
coffee, so I'm starting to feel it now. Ready to go.
that's good. I'm glad. Because we had a lot to get through. Here we go.
We do. Disclaimer time.
Yes. So, as you guys know from the previous episode, we are not experts. We don't claim to be experts. And a lot of this, especially in this episode, is coming from our experience. So, if you have a different experience or would like to share things with us, we now have an Instagram. So, follow us on the Instagram. And then we also have Twitter and all that stuff that you can reach out to us. We'll list it down at the end of the episode. So,
Yeah, we could do a good job, I think, about listing that, or at least mentioning that stuff at the end. So
yes.
yeah, so it should be good. Um, I'm gonna get us in some good news if you're gonna continue to eat your cutie.
I am. I'm going to continue to eat my cutie.
Okay, cool. Here we go. So, good news segment. Our first bit of good news is about a lovely 90-year-old graduate. 71 years after her first class, Miss Joyce Defoe, excuse me if I pronounce that wrong. For those who can't see what I'm seeing, her last name is spelled Defauw. Very interesting. Um, She is considered a super senior based on this article
Woo!
because, as a currently 90-year-old woman, she has now graduated from Northern Illinois University, earning her bachelor's degree in general studies. And this is, again, more than 70 years after she first enrolled in classes there. Um, it's just
Wow.
so sweet. I mean, the story goes on to say that, obviously she dropped out because she went back um, to
Yeah.
finish it out. But she did drop out after 3 years to get married and start her family. And according to the article, she just never stopped thinking about her college days and wanting to get back at it. So she did get a computer so she could start online classes in August of 2019, and
Nice.
through the last few years has just now finished that up. So that's like amazing and super sweet for good news this week.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
I
Good for
know.
her. Also, I feel like bad that part of me is just like, well, I bet it's way more expensive for her to be in school now than it was, 70 years ago, but
Yeah.
that's none of my business. I don't know.
You know what? Good for her for taking that on.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
a
I mean,
lot.
I guess she's 90 years old.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's got to be some kind of, I wonder, I don't know for sure, but there's got to be some kind of grant or something, like an age grant.
I would hope so.
I would
I
hope so
don't know.
too. That's a big undertaking for 90.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like funeral, school.
No.
Sorry. It was a little dark.
Joyce, Joyce, if you're listening, she doesn't mean that. You
She
were
doesn't
excellent.
know. No, I'm sure you're wonderful and gonna live
She's
much, much longer.
thriving.
Yes, thriving.
Oh my goodness. Moving on. Eat your cutie. I'm going on to the next good
I
news.
know. Sorry.
Next good news. Scientists have now announced a major breakthrough in nuclear fusion. So this, I did this good news in advance, so it's probably been a couple of weeks now since this came out. However, the U.S. government scientists at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories National Ignition Facility, which is a mouthful, by the way, um, have for the first time created a nuclear fusion reaction that produced more energy than it consumed, which is a great big deal.
Yes, I remember seeing something about this.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So, this fusion ignition is one of the most impressive scientific feats of the 21st century, said one of their secretaries.
Hmm.
And the ignition allows them to replicate for the first time certain conditions that are found to only have happened on like the stars and the sun. And it basically just moves them forward to having zero carbon fusion energy to power society, which is another clean energy movement, and just kind of breaks through that original. Because I'm assuming they either had negative energy where they like do the nuclear fusion but it costs more than what it
Right.
produces. They probably had a
Right.
break even point, and now finally it's producing more than it's using, which is just really great news on the clean energy
Yeah.
front. So I'd say that's pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah. So moving into our final bit of good news. um this is kind of a person. I chose this one because it's a Virginia lady. She's from Richmond,
Oh,
Virginia.
cool.
So selfishly, I was like, heck yes, we're gonna we're
We're
gonna
gonna
talk
do
about
this.
this.
Yeah.
Being both Virginia natives, I felt it was appropriate.
I think so.
So there is a lovely lady called Joy B. Moore. Some people may already know who this person is because they are rather famous for their pie. So, Miss Moore has a family recipe for sweet potato pie. She's made it for friends and family for years. It's been given to her from great grandmothers down the line. And basically, she decided she was going to take this thing that everybody loves that they make and turn it into a business for herself. And literally, it has been a lifesaver for her. She lost her job in 2019, and then she decided to go ahead and launch Joy Bell's Sweet Potato Pies in their hometown of
Nice.
Richmond, Virginia. And the great thing about this, outside of her individual success with the pies, is during obviously COVID, Joy Bell's partnered with the grocery store chain Food Lion through its
Nice.
supplier diversity initiative, and helped put, I believe, like tons of assistance putting food on the table for people. And um, today, her pies can be found in Food Lion and Sam's Club, and you name it, they're there. So,
Wow.
on an individual basis, she's really successful, but also sounds like she does a lot of work with helping other people, you know,
Nice.
stock food on their tables, which is kind of difficult for people these days. Money's tight. So, all good news all around.
Wow. All
Short
good
and sweet.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind
I
of
like it.
railed through that. I feel like we have a lot to talk about for this podcast, so
Yeah.
I wanted to be
Well,
quick.
and we have a tendency to go over like an hour, I think. So we're
Yeah.
trying to like get it down so that like, you guys aren't like, oh, these guys are going on for so long.
Because it's for us, but we assume you guys still listen. So,
Yeah, so we're just, I've gotten some feedback over the holiday, and I think we're gonna try and keep it to an hour or a little bit less than that. So that's
yeah.
the plan. We'll see.
So, but you're taking us into a deep dive today.
Yes, yes. So
Personal
today
opinions.
we're talking first half. We're gonna talk about um women's education, specifically the school that we went to, Sweetbriar College in Amherst, Virginia.
Not sponsored.
Yeah, not sponsored.
My whole college.
um so we both attended an all women's institution, and we're going to talk about that, how it affected us, and then in the second half we're going to talk about the history of women's colleges and what got us to this point today.
Mm-hmm.
So
Good stuff.
yeah, you guys know, some of you may know that Kirsten and I both attended Sweetbriar College. That's where we met.
Mm-hmm.
And we both had very different experiences, I think. That's safe to say.
Yeah.
Um, and so Kirsten, why don't you start? We'll just give us the background on like how you found Sweetbriar and what what made you decide to go.
Okay. Well, I will preface this with saying I was a dummy and did
She
not.
was. Just wait. Just wait.
I did not do my research very well. Well, it honestly it started because, as we've discussed already, school is very expensive. College, universities, you name it, it's really expensive to go to school. And so at the time, my mom worked for the University of Richmond. And of course, if you work for certain colleges, you can sometimes get assistance if they have like sister schools or whatever the case may be. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I was looking through the list of sister schools and Sweetbriar came up, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll just put all my eggs in one basket, like a beautiful dum dum. And I got accepted, and then I went on the tour.
Ah, I see.
And
Okay.
so I got accepted, and I was like, oh, that's great. So I'll just go on a tour. So my mom and I went on the tour, and we're walking around. I don't even remember what our guide's name was, but she was really nice. And
Yeah.
we're walking around, and I was like, my gosh, there's like so many women at this school. And my mom was like, it's an all girls school.
Oh no.
Which, no
And
offense.
that's when Kirsten realized she had made a grave mistake.
I mean, you have to say that you're fine, but you're really not
Oh,
fine.
no.
And I just kind of didn't really realize what I was getting myself into, which is just dumb on my part. I it's not that I wasn't interested. I just applied to whatever school made the most sense financially.
You were what, like 17 or 18 at the
Yeah.
time? You can't be blamed
Yeah.
for that. It's
No.
fine. It's okay.
And to
I
be
mean,
fair,
if the pink packaging on the marketing didn't tip you off, I don't know.
the
You were like, this
fact
is pretty. I like this.
school was literally named Sweetbriar College.
Right, right.
Like, no
Yeah.
offense to myself, but she wasn't that smart.
She
Anyway, so anyway, I got accepted, so I just went with it and whatever, and so suddenly I was now at an all women's institution.
I would just like to say, when Kirsten and I were having a conversation in college, and
Mm,
I vividly remember, I think we were sitting in your dorm room or something, and
mm.
you were like, there's so much drama here, and I just don't. And I'm like, so, and she's like, I just don't like that there's like a ton of women here, and I think it just makes things more dramatic. And I'm like, well, why did you come here if it's at all? And she's like, I didn't know, okay? I didn't know. And I'm just like, oh, okay.
Look, in my defense, I have no defense because I should have just done more
Yeah,
research. I did not
it's all
have to
right.
just apply to one anyway, but I
It's
did.
okay. Yeah,
So,
it's all right. We
um,
all make mistakes. Everything's fine. It worked out. We
it
have this
did.
now.
I was gonna say if I hadn't, we wouldn't have met, and we probably wouldn't be here now. So
That's
there
right.
is that. But um, in terms of overall experience, I mean, I women are okay. It's not that I dislike other women. Obviously, we do a podcast together.
Obviously. Yeah.
And we've had really great relationships with people, and we did make a lot of good friends, I would say. I mean, shout out, I don't even know if she listens, but Nadira was,
Yeah.
a great takeaway from that. We're friends, because of Sweetbriar.
Yeah.
And her life is amazing and beautiful. And I love watching her on Facebook and, being able to see her successes. You have tons of friends from swim team and things. So,
I
like,
do.
there's definitely like good things that came out of it. Um, However, what I would say is if I were to have gone back and done it again, I probably would not have chosen an all women's college,
Fair.
is
Fair.
what I would say. Because I
And
did go to one that wasn't like, because of we'll get into it, I'm sure
yeah,
that
well,
you
so
have,
tell
but
us a little bit about the drama, like, or I guess not drama, but just like things that you felt it was not for you, like reasons why it was not for you.
I felt like I, this is going to sound terrible, controversial topic incoming, right? So I
Mm,
feel bad, but I am not one of those people that just goes on and does women marches. I'm not like a super feministic type of person. I want everyone to have equality, and I value being equal across the board. I think it's really
mm,
important to be conscious of those things and be conscious of systematic things and what you can do to positively influence issues going on. However, I'm not putting my neck out every day just for the sake of being a woman. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
I can understand that.
I feel that in that environment, there are tons of beautiful ladies who do that. There's tons
Hmm.
of super powerfully like motivated women that we encountered that are really passionate, and it's great to see their passion and it's great to have that mentality. I was not one, and I felt like I was getting wrapped up into all of these like pro women down with men kind of mentalities from some
Sure.
people, and I'm not that. I
Yeah.
want equality. I don't want down with men. I don't want down with anything. I just want all of us to coexist equally and have a beautiful life together with the one life shot that we get. So
Yeah.
that's
And
kind of where I'm at.
I think they're definitely, I mean, I think that's, if you ask anyone nowadays, that's like pretty much the definition of feminism, right? So
Right.
I think whatever that culture though can definitely be
Yeah.
more ingrained in
Mm.
an all women environment, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I think, I don't think anyone goes to an college, and correct me if I'm wrong, if y'all are out here, um, I don't think anyone goes to an all women's college because they hate men. I don't think
Hope
that
not.
that's the motivation behind that. I think there's a lot of people who go because, like, especially for me, and I'll let you finish and we can talk about it, but like, quality of education was a
Mm-hmm.
big factor for me. I was not one of those people who wanted to go to a large school. I wanted people, who I wanted a community of people who knew who I was. I didn't want to be in a lecture hall with 200 other people who
That
I
makes
don't
sense.
know.
Yeah.
And Sweet was able to give that to me. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, I'll let you finish. Continue.
No, no, that's I agree with you completely. I When I was in high school, I was going through the IB program, which is for short term for International Baccalaureate, and so a lot
Yeah.
of our classes were usually on the smaller side, and so you do get that. And I think we got really good individualized attention for a lot of things because we were going through a rather rigorous program.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so I also agree. I was not gonna go to like VCU. It was the close. VCU was the closest school to me. My aunt went there. It's a great school. I know tons of people that went there and were
Yeah.
extremely successful. However, it was too large. It
Hmm.
was downtown, which I didn't really want to be in,
Yeah.
and um, I also feel that it was much more important to have more of an individualized take on something that was so expensive to do, and I was like, well, then it needs to be worth my time, and I need to be able to try and be successful in it. And I didn't want to just be a number.
Yeah.
So I totally
Yeah.
understand that.
So I'll just, what do you have anything else or do you want me to go now?
I think it's your turn.
Okay, it's my
It's
turn.
definitely your turn.
Okay. Let's see. I actually did a bunch of different colleges. Like at the time, they were advising everyone to do, you have your reach school and your safety schools and like all that stuff. So, and with my safety schools, I kind of divided. I did one school in Virginia that was like bigger and I knew that I could get in. And I did like another like medium sized, like smaller school that was co ed. All of these were co ed. Sweetbriar was the only one that I applied to that was an all women's institution. And so I went on tours of all these places, and my brother will tell you that it was the worst for him because he had to just like do nothing the entire weekend and just like hang out in the back of the car, and it was not a fun time for him.
Jeez.
Um, but we went and we did all the things, and I immediately I stepped foot on the campus of the bigger school, and I was like, absolutely not. I can't handle this. This is too
Mm-hmm.
much. And then another school, Randolph Macon, actually,
Mm-hmm.
which it's a really nice, it's a smaller school, really nice. I really liked it there. I would have been able to swim there because at the time, swimming was a big part of my life, and I wanted to keep that going into college. And I wasn't going to get like a D1 scholarship by any means. I was not that talented. So Randolph Macon was really good, and then Sweetbriar also. I met the coach, and you go to all the like weekend touring events,
Yeah,
like how
yeah,
they get you
yeah.
to, and so,
It's true.
so and at the end of the day, I don't think I chose Sweetbriar because I really liked the swim coach. I really liked wasn't going to be a number. I felt like they really cared about was as a student. And it wasn't necessarily because of like the all women's aspect. Like that was it made me like when I was on campus, I felt safe there,
Mm-hmm.
like I felt uh-oh, the internet connection is unstable. Here we go.
Just like me, completely unstable.
But Sweetbriar just made me feel like I wasn't just a number, and also that, I could have a really positive 4 years here.
Yeah, I get you.
Um and I think I also had a really, which is weird, I also had a really hard time like in high school with the females that I was friends with. And
Yeah.
so going into an all girls school, I didn't really like it wasn't my first pick. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't something, it kind of just snuck up on me and was like, this is the vibes are right here. The vibes are right. Like when you're buying a home or like when you're, you
Yeah,
know, buying a car or something like that, you're just like, the vibes are right. I like it here. We're going to do this. And so that's what I did.
makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's good.
Um, so, and so we both did 3 years at
Yes.
Sweetbriar. And in March, was it March? It was March of our
Um.
junior year.
Yeah, I think so.
It
It's
was
kind of
March
like a
of our
time
junior
crunch.
year, something like that.
Yeah.
So we're almost seniors. We're almost like we can see the end of the tunnel. Everything is fine. We're doing all the like fun traditions that you get to do when you're a junior.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they send us an email
Mm-hmm.
saying, hey, like everybody needs to come at this time,
Yeah.
and just everybody needs to be here, everyone on campus. And like this school, I think it was like 800 at the time, 800 to 1,000 students
Yeah. I
maybe
would.
total.
Yeah, it sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was smaller than my high school, which
Okay.
was the case for a lot of people. But so we're all like in the auditorium, like what's going on? Why is the dean here? Are all the teachers here and they don't look very pleased to be here? Like what's going on?
Everyone was crying before we had arrived. I would just
Well,
also like to say.
no, no. So yes, there was. Well, I got there before,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, I think this girl, um, sitting a few rows back, she was like, hey, I see that there's like a press release that the school is closing. And I'm like, what do you mean the school is closing? And then
Yes.
immediately everyone starts sobbing,
So
right?
many
And then
tears.
right. And then um so then the dean like gets up on the
Mhm.
podium and says, "So I have some news for you guys." And I forget, like I blacked this out. Like it was
I don't
there was
remember it
so much
either.
emotion happening, like and he's like, "We have to close the school." And then immediately everyone just like gets up to walk out. And then the choir teacher who was a huge
Yeah.
influence on campus, like everybody knew her.
Yeah.
She was super great. She gets up on the stage. She's like, "Y'all sit your ass down and you listen to what he has to tell you."
It's true. It's
And
true.
so we all abide by Marsha's rules and we sit
Shout out to
down.
Marsha.
Shout out. So we sit back down and he says, "Okay, so the school is closing in May. Um, Here are your options."
Hmm.
And so there had been some schools that reached out and they had, I think there was 3 at the time
Hmm.
that they had prearranged agreements with so that the students that still needed to continue
Hmm.
their education the next year could go to those schools, and it would be exactly like the curriculum would be similar, the price would be similar. There was like
Right.
agreements that it would make the transition as easy as possible, right?
Correct.
Lies anyway. But
It was not easy.
so and as this news broke, so okay, so I'm walking back from the auditorium and I like call my parents and I'm like, the school is closing. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, the school is closing. I'm like sobbing. The school is closing, Dad. The school is closing. And so I like get myself together. I just go and then I think the swim team was like, okay, we're just all gonna have a meeting we're just all gonna go to the pool. We're going to
Right.
the pool because that's
Safe
where we go.
space. That's right.
We go to the pool. So we're in the pool area and we're all just like, and we're all like sobbing. We're all just like a hysterical mess. Like I
Hmm.
can't believe what's happening to me right now.
Hmm.
And so then we just like fully clothed, we all just like get into the pool. And we're just like, this is what it is
I
now.
didn't know that part.
We don't give a I'm gonna bleep that out later. But like
It's
we
fine.
were so we just like got in the pool.
Yeah.
Um and we're just like, this is so stupid and I don't know what to do and this is awful. And then I don't remember anything else after that.
It's a normal
Um
response, I guess.
yeah, I don't know. I remember like a few days later eating pizza in like there was a lot of debriefing. Then in all the
Hmm.
classes after that there was a lot of debriefing and talking about like what's going on, and like as juniors we kind of got screwed because we
Hmm.
couldn't finish our senior year, and like it's really hard to transfer somewhere in your junior year, and it was like a whole thing. And
Yeah.
anyway, we're gonna pause right there, and then Kirsten, you tell us how you feel on that, or like was that the same experience you had, because it was rough.
um, I feel like I don't remember a whole lot other than the actual auditorium meeting. I don't even if if Nadira listens to this, I don't remember crying, to be honest. In fact,
Mm.
this is going to sound really harsh. I felt more inconvenienced than anything.
Yeah, well, yeah, that came later for me, but yeah,
It was more like, great, now I have all of this to think about and all of this to worry about. Meanwhile, every class I go to is like, again, not meant to be offensive. I know that this was very personal for a lot of
yeah,
people.
it was
I
just a
was
rant
I was
about
not attached like everybody else was, and maybe that's crass of me to say, but I was there for an education. Okay, I was
yeah,
on a very personal, logical note.
yeah,
My education just got ripped out from underneath me, and I didn't know what to do. It was more
yeah,
an inconvenience.
yeah,
But I hated the fact that every class I went to was more about the closing than it was about
what you're actually supposed to be
what I'm
learning.
supposed to be learning. Because like at
Yeah,
the end of the day, like we still, like this was in March, so we still had the rest of the semester to figure our own lives out,
right,
as well as continue whatever we had to try and push forward to wherever we ended up, right?
exactly. Yep.
So I mean, again, on a very personal logical note, um I think it was Randolph College that I originally went to. go like scope out first because it was in
Hmm.
the area, number one, and number two, they carried over my tuition assistance
Yeah.
program, which was like also really great. But
Yeah.
fun fact, Randolph College was an all women's college that
Back
went
in the day.
co-ed, yeah, over the last
Yeah.
few years. And um, so they were just experiencing what Sweetbriar didn't do or couldn't do for their various reasons that we were in this pickle in the first place.
Right.
Um, so from that perspective, I was like, okay, well, I have a plan. I transferred, and then they were like, "Oh, just kidding. We're staying open, and you should stay."
Well, yeah. So then, like, I had decided that I was going because by the end of the semester, I think everyone had kind of been
Mm-hmm.
sorted, right? Like
Correct.
into
Yeah.
a new school, and I had told Chatham University in Pittsburgh that I'm
Mm-hmm.
coming, and
Which was also
which was
previously all girls.
the year that I got
Mm-hmm.
there, which was
Isn't
2016
that
or
funny?
2015 to 2016,
Yeah.
that was their first year of having boys. But
Right.
other up until that point, they were a female
And that's so funny.
institution.
That's so
Yeah.
funny to me. Yeah.
I think,
Anyway.
well, I mean, financially, it makes more sense, right? You have twice the
Yes.
amount of people who can come. And then sports open up, and it's like a whole thing. And we all know that male sports get more funding than female sports, but that's a whole other
Different
podcast.
podcast.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so, by May, everyone had figured out what they're doing with their life for the most part. And then meanwhile, like over spring, my dad like drove me to some other colleges just to like see what they were, and
Mm-hmm.
so that I could finish out like what was happening. Um, finish out and like pick a place that was good, And anyway, um, over the summer, Sweetbriar called us all up, not really
Mm-hmm.
literally, but they
Yeah.
like they were like, surprise, we have funding to go through for the fall semester, and y'all want to come back. And I'm just, and so my brain immediately, emotionally, my brain was like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, because
Right.
I'll have my swim team back. I'll be able to do all the senior things that I had planned that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But in this previous, like last, quote unquote, last semester,
Yeah.
we had all kind of been like, well, we're just gonna, live it up, and we're just gonna. They spent like money on like all the clubs were trying to get rid of their money, so
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of really fun events going on. Like there was a lot
Go out with a
happening.
bang.
Yeah, exactly. So we were all just kind of like I had closure and like made my peace with the fact that I wasn't returning to Sweetbriar.
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, who of my friends are all coming back? Like, what is
Mm-hmm.
swim team going to be like? Like, what's going on? And then some of this, I think a majority of the swim team, I think, went back.
Mm, that would make
But I
sense.
stayed. But I stayed with Chatham because I had already told them. And then my parents were also kind of like, we don't, this is a sketchy financial situation and we don't
Absolutely.
really want to do that.
That was my thought as well.
And yeah, so and then I got to experience Pittsburgh, and that's a whole nother podcast as well. But it was like a fun, it wasn't a bad, it was a bad experience in the moment, but now that I look back on it, I think it all worked out.
Yeah,
Do you
I would
feel that way
agree.
too?
Yeah, I had the similar thought where when they were reaching out and everything cuz I was like, okay, well, that's great, but I can't trust you now. And this is again in terms of money a very expensive venture to
Correct.
be wishy-washy on.
Right.
And it's not like I had again, I'm so sorry for those from Sweetbriar that are listening to this and you're hearing this now. If you didn't know my opinion now, then you certainly know it now. But I wasn't attached to it because again, it wasn't
Yeah.
about being an all-girls school. It wasn't about like, the school itself. I just went there for an education in a place that would help financially, and now it was gone, and I hadn't thought much else about it. And honestly, when I made the move to Randolph, I thrived there, and I actually had like it's hard to say now, like looking back, because I know it's offensive to some people, but I had a much better time. I felt
And
more
that's
attached.
okay.
Right,
That's
like
okay.
if I had known, if I if I hadn't put all my eggs in one basket, I probably would have gone to Randolph because I just had such a great experience, and I thrived in the classes like I didn't thrive at Sweetbriar, and I just overall had a wonderful experience there, and I'm so grateful to their teams of people that made the transfer possible at the time. And I know there were quite a few people from Sweetbriar that also went there, and had a great time. Of course, they missed Sweetbriar, but for, I'm assuming, similar reasons. They just didn't return because of, you know, whatever.
So you just totally cut out for me. I don't know if it cut out on the audio, but like you were frozen for like a good
Oh no.
2 minutes or so.
Um, I just had a really good experience there, and I know a
Yeah,
couple of other
yeah,
people transferred there as well and had a good experience there. Even if they did miss Sweetbriar, like the school
yeah,
that we went to was just as good, if not, in my opinion, a little bit better.
yeah.
So
So
yeah,
I think I mostly missed Sweetbriar because it felt like home for me almost. Like
sure,
it,
yeah,
I I had such a good network of people. I felt like I was in a community that accepted me and loved me. And like, it just felt really good. And I was getting a great education. You know what I mean? Like it was like the opposite of all the terrible things that I didn't like about high school. It was like the opposite of that and like
that's
so good.
good. Yeah,
And so I think I just that for emotionally it was hard, but like
yeah,
logically I don't think I would have done anything different.
I definitely wouldn't have, for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Which is good. I mean,
I
the
mean,
thing is like
yeah,
same-sex education, like when I was researching this episode, I was
mm,
trying to like find statistics on like why same-sex education is like better. And overall educating women is a huge thing, and it should
correct.
be it should be promoted. Like we However, I don't know if it's absolutely necessary to go to a gender specific school, you know?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, you have to think. I know you're going to get into the history here in um,
I will.
a little
Yeah.
bit, but I would have to say that obviously, as times have changed, a lot of women's rights have come to this current state where now women
Yeah.
are voting and educated and all this other stuff. Um, and it is really powerful in society to have a group of educated people all around, no matter your gender or your identity, because you're all working towards the same goal, in my opinion. You're all supposed to be, on the forefront of information and, um, educating yourselves to better fit the society and better the society overall. So,
Yeah, definitely.
do you want to take a break?
Um yes, I think we should probably take a break. We'll show you guys our new ad, which is so exciting. Um and then we'll start the second half. Hi Kirsten.
Hi, Blair.
Do you have cats?
Why, yes, I do.
Then you should play mediocre content for your cats.
And why is that?
Because it has been shown to soothe cats and reduce hairballs.
Really?
Yes, in fact, I play mediocre content for my cats too. Mediocre content is for all pets.
That's so great to know. I will play mediocre content for my cats right now.
You should. Everyone should listen to mediocre content with their pets today.
Mediocre content has not been shown to reduce hairballs or soothe any animals of any species. In fact, it's very probable to create the exact opposite effect. Please use caution while exposing your furry friends to mediocre content. It's also pretty dodgy for humans, so listen at your own risk. Mediocre content is not responsible for any negative effects of podcast listening.
And welcome back
We hope you
to
enjoyed
the
it.
We Know Nothing show. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, speaking of education, right?
Yeah, it's like we're educated, but we know absolutely nothing.
How unfortunate.
I know.
Oh my god.
All right, so this part we're going to talk about the history of women's colleges in the U.S. So fun fact, there is about 60 all women's colleges that are still operating today, and then 4 all men's colleges.
This
So,
seems very disproportionate.
yeah. Um, I, yeah, I don't know. I have no comment on that. I'm just reading the facts.
I'm just saying.
So, in the 1830s and 40s, there was a significant debate about whether women should be educated. Shocker. Um, in 1836, the first women's school or the first women's schools to call themselves colleges were Georgia Female College, and then that was, yeah, so obviously in Georgia, and then Mary Sharp College in Tennessee, and Elmira College in New York, and those were like the first ones. Most single sex schools at the time were catering to upper class students, and then co-ed institutions were letting women in, that catered more to the middle class. So
Mm,
if you were rich, you went to an all female school, and
interesting.
it, yeah. So most of the women's colleges were created in the South during this time because women were less likely to be quote unquote led astray
Oh,
if they were
okay.
educated.
Interesting
So
concept.
yeah, I mean, I think there might be some underlying sexism there. Just a little
Do you think?
just a little bit, you know.
Oh man.
Picking up on that just a
Hmm.
tad.
Just a little.
So then the Civil War happened.
Hmm.
Super fun.
I wasn't
Great.
there. I wouldn't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know.
Might be a
Um
tragic event.
yeah, possibly.
Hmm.
So all the southern colleges were destroyed, and it also bankrupted the South. So they kind of had to start over. And in the North, um, specifically where close to where Kirsten is living right now in the Northeast
Woo.
part of the country, the Seven Sisters were born, and these are the seven all originally all female colleges that were sisters to the Ivy Leagues
Oh
schools.
wow.
Yeah, so like Wellesley was with the sister school to Harvard,
Hmm.
and I think Smith was a sister school to MIT, and
Wow.
so on and so forth. There was a chart. I didn't include the chart for some reason.
Unhelpful.
Um, yeah, and so let's see. So Vassar was ended up becoming co-ed, Radcliffe, and but all of the other ones, Mount Holyoke, Bernard, Bryn Mawr, Smith, and Wellesley, which is incidentally where Hillary Clinton went to college. Um, they are all still all female.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So after the Seven Sisters came into existence, there were several all women's colleges created mostly in the Northeast and the South until the 1930s.
Hmm.
And women's colleges have always prided themselves on rigorous curriculum, but have been criticized for their lack of STEM coursework, which I think we can kind of see a similarity with Sweetbriar a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
I I don't
they
know.
had a very new engineering program. I think when
They
we
did.
started in 2012, but it was definitely like a liberal arts education, right? They really prided themselves on that.
I I think I have one comment on that. So the one thing that I noticed the most is the stems themselves had a lot to say about the other part of the non-STEM offered courses,
Yeah,
and that was one criticism I have, is that like a lot of the times if you were in a STEM related major, like
mm-hmm.
we were in
Right,
mostly STEM related majors. You were
right.
a religion major though, right?
Yeah, so I was a religion major, but I was minoring in chemistry and
Right.
bio.
Right. So you still got some of that. But I did feel that the STEMs had a lot to say about if you were actually a history major and were just trying to get your prerequisite in a
Yeah,
biology class, or if you were like English or economic. Like they always
yeah,
had something to say if you were not majoring in a STEM, which I did not appreciate.
yeah.
Because I feel like it's valued, like education should be valued across the board.
I
You
agree.
know?
I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah. So traditionally, all women's colleges were liberal arts degrees. I think a lot of, I mean, obviously it was rigorous, the curriculum. Like these are all very well renowned schools. Um, but I think a lot of it was just because, like, in at the time, women were just going to go get married after this, right? And they weren't allowed to have like
Careers.
actual careers. Um, so in 1960, women's colleges rapidly, and it just continued to be a downtrend until the 90s because men's colleges admitting women, and it became a co-ed environment. Um, so so this is a quote from the article that I got this from, and basically it just says social science research demonstrates that alumni of women's colleges, even from those less prestigious institutions, so not the Seven Sisters, um, include a greater of achievers than graduates from co-educational schools.
Hmm.
And especially in non traditional fields, scholars argue that superior mentoring and more supportive environment at a women's college account for this disparity.
That makes sense.
Thus, while it is unlikely that women's colleges will be established, it is equally unlikely and undesirable that the remaining ones will disappear.
I like that. I actually do like that because I think I, despite my personal opinions, I would agree that there was a lot of camaraderie and a lot of support systems available to those that wanted to be part of it, like the
Yeah.
tap clubs and things like that. You
Yeah.
built a group and potentially across multiple fields because I know you were part of swim team, but you were also part of some of the tap clubs. So it was like,
Yeah, and I
you
did
know,
choir and I
yeah,
did like a bunch of other stuff. You
you
know,
had
it
multiple
was
support groups.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um I think it was as long as you were involved, you know, you kind of
Mm-hmm.
developed this supportive
Right.
environment for yourself. Um, but I liked that because it's kind of acknowledging the fact that like we may not be heading towards a boom of like all women's colleges, but I
Mm-hmm.
think they're valuable enough to stay. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see, we'll see. Um, but yeah, I basically feel personally that it's a good like an all women's college is a good place to get an education, and a good environment for learning, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't. But co-ed schools, you know, for me, it worked out really well. But like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that I don't think they're better or co-ed schools.
It might even come down to like the one that you go to, right? So like
Right.
if you're if you're at an all girls school that maybe still maintains the value of overall education, that's great. But you could also go to a co-ed school that just is really crappy and doesn't doesn't
Right.
offer you
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
for both genders. They just don't offer you what you need, and it's not like a really empowering situation. So it could be either way.
True. True.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just about picking the college that's right for you. Yes, my cat just jumped on the back of my chair.
Holy crap, he came out of
Rude.
nowhere.
Yeah, he jumped from the other desk
Oh
and just
my
like came into frame.
Wow. I'm so sorry. The void just like jumped out of nowhere.
The void is Salem.
Oh my gosh. Anyway,
Yeah. Sorry about that,
that's
guys.
fine. That's hilarious. That's
He's
what
just
happens.
chilling on the back of my chair now, like
He's so
nothing's
happy.
wrong. Mm.
He said, yeah, he had something to say about the
Oh
same
my
sex
god.
education. Um, but yeah, so good environment for learning is good no matter what institution you go to. But yeah,
Yeah. And then so just a recommendation if anyone wants to learn or absorb some media on this topic, I guess.
mm-hmm.
Um, Mona Lisa's Smile is a really great movie. I don't know. Have you seen it?
I haven't. No,
Okay. It's a really great movie. Julia Roberts is the main character.
I do love her.
But there's like a ton of other really good women actresses or actresses. I don't, women actresses is redundant, but either way,
Yeah.
actresses in there. Um, and the premise of the movie is that Julia Roberts is an art teacher and she goes to go teach at Wellesley,
Mm-hmm.
which is sister school to Harvard, as we said. And all of these girls are basically it takes place in the 50s. All of these girls are basically just getting their education and then just going to get married to a Harvard man and then
Mm-hmm.
being the head of the household, right? And so Julia Roberts' character tries to impart on them that it's more than that. You know, you're going to one of the best like educational institutions in the world. You should really capitalize on that opportunity, blah blah blah. And so it's a really just a really fun movie.
I think that's one thing perhaps that I can say pro gender school, particularly when it comes to women, is I think during that time period, women maybe thought or were led to believe that they could not be successful in a career for whatever reason, like
Yeah,
whatever stupid misogynistic reason that was being thrown around, right? So
sure.
I think it's important in that sense to make sure that women that do attend all women's colleges do feel empowered to pursue whatever career path or
Hmm.
educational path that they have in mind, and to know that your gender does not define your success, you define your success in that role. So I would say that is important, particularly for women who have been led to believe for many, many years that they cannot or should not be successful in those areas.
Correct. Yeah,
So,
I agree. I
yeah,
agree. So yeah, just a fun movie recommendation if you guys want that.
I'll check it out.
And then I literally have nothing else after that. Is this bad? Is this a bad episode? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. I mean, we could talk for hours about our own experiences and about gender schools and things like that, but I think also perhaps thinking about identifying as just different genders and how that affects things, because even that has its place as well, and
Yes.
trying to make sure that we're being conscious of those changes in society and
Right.
what that brings to the table.
And
um,
I thought about that going into this topic because I was like, well,
yeah,
where do all the gender neutral people fit in?
right,
Or like,
exactly,
not everyone fits in just to the two categories. And so I
right,
kind of I didn't see a whole lot of information on that, or nobody like
yeah,
that I've seen or that I find really like brought that up. So yeah, that is an interesting question, and I know for a fact that there are places in women's colleges for
mm-hmm.
LGBTQ
I
people.
mean, we certainly had
We
tons
Yeah, I know.
at
Like we
Sweetbriar,
were
so
exactly, exactly. So I think there's definitely a safe space for them, um,
yeah,
for sure. Like in a women's college, I just
yeah.
don't. Yeah, it's just yeah, I can't speak on that because it's not my experience.
It's not mine either, but I do think it's a conversation that if there are, obviously there's tons of women's colleges that are still in effect, and even men's colleges, right? So
Hmm.
there, if there's not, there certainly should be conversations about that and how that works into this new kind of society that has those questions on the
Right.
table about,
Absolutely.
especially for those that may have transitioned and they're trying to find a place and they're trying to feel you know like they can go and be educated just as well as anybody else, in those
Exactly.
environments, in an environment where they want to feel safe in
Right.
their new gender identity or what have you. So I think it's definitely a conversation to have.
Definitely. Definitely.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
What a beautiful way to wrap up the. I, despite my opinions, I had a good time with this one.
I'm glad. Yeah, I did too. I think I'm still like I still have a lot of emotions about this whole
Obviously,
thing, because it
which
was
is
just so
fine,
it was so unnecessarily dramatic for us, I think.
and that's why I didn't
But
want to go.
I did truly enjoy my experience
Yeah,
at an all female college, and I think it's just something to consider. You don't
yeah,
it shouldn't be ruled out,
no,
If
I
you're
would agree.
looking for a college, you can get a really great education.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just something I think that should be promoted, but not like, shoved in people's faces.
Absolutely.
And not and make sure the packaging is clear because obviously some people
Some people don't read; they just
they
they go
just
for it.
they're like, this is pink. I like pink. All right, let's go.
I did. That's part of the reason. But with that, we'd love to know your opinions on this topic or
Yeah.
others. So feel free to send us a email at mediocrecontentpodcast@gmail.com, or like Blair mentioned before, we now have an Instagram
Whoop,
and a Twitter, which is
whoop, whoop.
great. So Twitter, we're at Mediocre Squawks, and on Instagram, I think we're just Mediocre Content Podcast,
We are.
which
That
is
is correct.
super, super simple. So look for us on there as well.
Yeah, we post some dank memes.
We're trying. Anyway. And with that, I guess we'll see you next week this time. So bi-weekly is no longer a thing.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week. I'm so excited.
Cheers.
Cheers.